Hi guys, I'm Steve Mera and welcome to our second episode in Paranormal Catalyst by SCP. And it's a continuing story of my research into a gentleman who's a catalyst known as Don Phillips. Now, it's probably advisable that you actually watch the first video to get an understanding about where we currently are. But as the story unfolded, I had been to Leicester and met with Don Phillips for the very first time. And this is a little highlight from my trip going down there to meet Don. Heading down to meet with Don Phillips during the investigation. We've got quite a long drive ahead of us. Looking forward to it. It's going to be certainly a little bit different this. Rarely am I involved with just paranormal investigation. I'm usually going in there to rationalise experiences as best I possibly can, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing this time. Meeting up with Don Phillips, and together we're going to try and solve a couple of the mysteries that have been baffling science for a long, long time. And as I stated in the last video, we did a specific test with Don known as a hidden envelope test, with images in these 3 different envelopes, and he had to actually pick one particular envelope out of the 3 and be able to tell me what that image was, and I had no idea what those images were, of course. And I was absolutely amazed at not only the approach of what he did to get that information, but which was quite profound, I've not seen before, but also that the fact that he actually got the information correct. And this is a little clip from that test. Well, it was an extremely difficult test because I didn't just bring one envelope, I brought 3. You picked one envelope from the 3, and not only you picked the right envelope, it's also the right picture in that envelope as well. So statistically speaking, I couldn't even calculate that. It's phenomenal, it really is. So after leaving Leicester, I realised that Don was communicating with numerous different things. Spirits, whatever you want to call them. However, there was one particular intelligence he was communicating with, which was referred to itself as Becky. And a relationship was established at Gainer's home initially with this particular so-called spirit. And what's interesting is that this intelligence is kept in contact with him regularly, providing information and giving him details as time's gone on in other locations as well.
So, Kevin, what's he just done?
Well, he's just recorded something on the dictator, and I believe it says "Hello, Kevin." Oh my God, I can really hear that. You're bugging me backwards.
Sideways, I'd rather not.
I came here with a totally open mind. I did, and Don's right. There was a degree of skepticism. What I can say is things have happened that I can't explain. I'm hoping when everything's put together that more sense can be made. One thing that I will endorse now is Don has been absolutely open to the point of a fault. There certainly is nothing going on here, and at the moment I am struggling for answers. The one thing that isn't in doubt is that voices have been captured, that is a fact, and that is a fact that our readers will hear for themselves.
Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe is also convinced of Don's effectiveness, having studied the field for more than 50 years and being a former president of the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena.
Don certainly seems to have a unique ability in this area, and having, as I said, worked with many psychic mediums over many years, I'm sure that what he is doing is absolutely honest, and we look forward to investigating his communications as well as whatever entities he may be communicating with.
Black Lion in Northampton. It was about 2-3 in the morning. I can't remember now. We've been up a long time, and it was just me and Don in the whole building. And this is the first time I heard of Becky. and I heard a complete conversation between Becky and Don. Absolutely gobsmacked I was.
My name's Robert Snow, and I used to be the General Secretary of the Ghost Club, which is the oldest paranormal research organisation in the world. It's been going since 1862, and one of its earliest members was Charles Dickens, the famous writer in the 19th century. I'd heard a lot about Don Phillips, and I've spoken to him a few times on the phone, but I hadn't actually met him until yesterday. I'm a person who has been on many paranormal investigations, or investigations, you could say, into haunted sites, haunted buildings, with the Ghost Club. I was very impressed the way Don conducts his investigations, as I was a witness throughout the whole night. He looks at things objectively. He's certainly very thorough, and he doesn't rush things. He doesn't hurry his investigations, and we were getting things like electronic voice phenomena, which, to be perfectly honest, in the past I've heard people using digital recorders and getting what they say is a human voice. All you get really, all I've heard in the past, is a lot of interference, static, which people interpret as being human voices. Don was asking the people, presumably the spirits, questions, and they were giving intelligent answers. There was obviously some form of intelligence behind the voice. Now that's something, as I just said, I haven't experienced before. Having witnessed everything that Don does, I can say with 100% certainty he's a very genuine person.
So that's become very interesting. And to me, I thought, well, that's a great advantage to have. If I was to go on a number of investigations and take Don as a catalyst with me, and not only do I get the opportunity to investigate the capabilities of Don Phillips, but also he may provide some details which are certainly advantageous for the investigation that's being carried out. So that led me into working with Don for 10 years, and we are continuing to we still are working together. And it's been a hell of a ride, and phenomena has escalated, and I've learned so much more since then. But because it was actually in a home, and I was still just, 99% acceptable of that there was a phenomenon taking place, just that niggling 1%, and it happens with us all, that is this house rigged in some way? I had to get Don out in a location which he couldn't control, outdoors ideally. And a perfect opportunity came up when we were asked to investigate the disturbances in a location known as Cannock Chase in Staffordshire in England. And the reports of strange phenomena, all sorts of different things, be it cryptid, UFO, paranormal, and even these so-called black-eyed children phenomena, apparitions, or whatever these things are, had been reported quite consistently in that area over a small period of time. So we managed to meet up with Mike Lockley, who has been a reporter in that area covering Cannock Chase for many, many years. And we decided to go down and investigate that location during the evening. And it was a perfect opportunity, like I say, outdoors, can't control it, can't hide wires around or speakers and things like that, to conduct any further tests that might be initiated through Don's capabilities, which might be experienced at that location. So let's take a look at that.
Here I am again in the haunt of the black-eyed child, deep in Cannock Chase. This time I've got two very important people with me. One of the country's leading paranormal experts, Don Phillips, and also Steve Mera. They're going to try and find out the riddle, and they've come with open minds to see whether it is myth or whether there is really something here. Steve, you're bringing a scientific slant to this. Now, I've been stunned the way that this has grown worldwide. What's behind this? What do you think? Why is there this sudden rush in sightings, this sudden interest?
Well, of course, paranormal phenomena, the subject of it is a very interesting one, especially nowadays. You know, we have a lot of people that are interested in that type of thing, in the subject, and it does grow, and the internet does spread it very much. You know, and unfortunately, I think there are a lot of rational explanations that can come forward to explain some of the strange things that have been reported here.
And tell me, Steve, I must say, are you here to debunk, or are you coming with an open mind?
Well, I always come with an open mind and I'm objective, you know. I mean, I've been in the subject for 31 years and I have experienced the odd thing now and again, but most of the time I do find rational explanations, and I believe, you know, there's a lot of things that can be disproved at this location, so I'm certainly here to give it a stab.
My name's Mike Lockley. I'm a reporter for the Cannock Chase area and have been since 1975. In all those years, I've received literally hundreds of reports about paranormal activity at this very site, Cannock Chase. There's been werewolves, there has been big cats, there's been UFOs, but now, just lately, there have been no end of calls about the black-eyed child. I'm dealing with about 50 calls a week. I decided it was time to call the experts in, and I'm here in the pitch black with Don and Steve to see if we can find out what's behind all these sightings. Don, great to see you again.
Likewise. As Mike's just explained, he's called me and Steve in to see if we can actually find something tangible what's going on here. There's been an awful lot of reports, as you've already said. We are going to be here for the entire night. You are going to skive off probably in the next hour or two.
Yeah.
You joined us on investigation a few months ago.
And I was absolutely stunned by the results, really were. I went there expecting to see or hear nothing, and really the results at this pub blew me away.
More about it than I thought. I've heard voices. I know that Don would like to see more, but at the moment there are things that I can't explain that's happened here.
I'm hoping for the same tonight, and what has really excited me is that Don straight away said that you felt something.
Yeah, as soon as I arrived here, well, literally got out the car to this point, I felt a lot of energy, a lot of what I would term as spirit energy. The interesting thing is there's more outside of the cemetery than actually inside the cemetery. We've already spent several minutes down the bottom of the path and picked up some very, very, very interesting recordings, haven't we, Mike?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've already got a name. There are two German cemeteries here, two cemeteries filled with the graves of German soldiers who died in World War II. Now, I thought I detected a German accent. Don's the expert, he'll tell me more. But what I can say, it is very spooky here, very, very spooky.
It's ideal then, isn't it, Mike?
Absolutely.
Okay. We're going to crack on now. The recordings I've just mentioned that we got earlier, we will break them down, we will analyse them later. In the meantime, let's have a quick word with Steve.
UFOs, paranormal phenomena, strange creatures. I've investigated things all over this country, and tonight I'm here in Cannock Chase, where there's been a lot of paranormal disturbances reported recently in all the national papers across the country. I'm here tonight with Don Phillips, and we're going to investigate some of the local hotspots to find out what's really going on.
Right, we was just getting the car to take a couple of recordings. There was something, well, it sounded definitely like a very loud whisper, which I will actually play at some point when we finish here this evening. Exactly what was being said, I'm not actually sure, and to be honest, I couldn't actually say it was definitely words that I heard, but Mike agreed with me that it was a very loud whisper of sorts. Before that, more interesting is when we got in the car before we started, I heard what sounded like a male speaking, say something. And I looked at Mike and says, "Did you hear that?" And he went, "Yeah, I did." This was actually behind us in the car at the time.
So we heard something from the back of the vehicle, and also to the question, what do you think of Michael, the introduction of me as a journalist, there's definitely a response. Now, what was good for me was that Don didn't select an answer for me. It wasn't a case of, do you think it said such and such? I made it out myself. It's intriguing, very intriguing.
I asked a question on Mike's behalf. Do you mind me being here as a journalist? Am I okay to be here as a journalist? Then came this direct response. Mike was just about to leave us, and I've just... Well, I'll let Mike just explain what happened.
Well, that was the strangest thing yet. I said my goodbyes. Don asked if anybody wanted to say farewell, play the recording, and well, I won't spoil it for you. I'll let Don play it now. This was the results.
It's like two voices, that.
Yeah, that is two voices.
That's two voices.
Goodbye and good night.
Goodbye and good night, definitely.
Can I ask him a question? I'll go I'm trying to get you out of the traffic. Hang on. That is beautiful, because that's two.
Yeah. That is amazing. That's the best one.
I definitely could hear the words good night and goodbye. I mean, I'm just as perplexed as I was. So for words, and that doesn't happen very often. But as you can well imagine, it's a bit perplexing, and I have no explanation for it at this time.
Quite a nice little present to send you home with.
Well, I'm really am pleased with what's happened tonight. It's been a great evening. I'm sorry I've had to go. I know that you guys are here for a few hours yet, but it has added to the mysteries of this place. It really has, and made me even more concerned about coming here at night.
I might appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. In the meantime, I think it's time that we cracked on.
As we were walking down the path, Don was kind of drawn to this location here, in the middle of a field, actually, of all places. But nevertheless, though, he claims that he's picking up some type of strange energy. I mean, I can't feel anything myself, but Don claims there's something obviously going on here, and we've come over to this location, and I'm going to take some measurements. I don't know how far this sort of line goes where this energy is supposed to be, but we're checking into it. I'm going to take some measurements and see if anything comes up on the equipment.
I've got to get my stuff. I don't know where it's going to take us. Several minutes later, I knew we'd arrived.
This is it. This is it.
Arrived to what? I had no idea. It was dark and nothing was visible until Steve turned on his light.
Got all the flowers. Okay. We've got flowers all over the tree.
Where's my camera?
Oh, got you here. This is it. This is it. I'm on it, Tom.
I'm alright.
Okay. Let's get some photos draft. Need to put some... What should record as you don't stand on there? Tom? In fact, I'll put my bag over them.
Our night vision camera picked up this sound. A sound which sounded like a male calling Norman. Have a listen, see what you think.
Jeez.
A few minutes later, I was feeling more composed and took another recording. The reply that came back was, "There's another one." I'm of the opinion that I've been led here for a reason. We are struggling because, as I said before, it is very windy, but in between I'm just going to see if we can get recording. Tell us what's happened, give me your name or something before this wind comes back. I'm going to talk to you about this anyway in a few minutes, but please just try for me. Although windy, the energy was still strong enough to enable Becky to be heard. Now we've got the wind problem, haven't we? Oh. Thank you. There's another one.
There's another one.
No, but do you hear it as a voice?
Yes, I do hear it as a voice. Yes, I do. Yeah.
it's not just static. There are vocals in that, and I picked out the words. There's another one. Another what? I don't know. I don't know where the sound's coming from. I don't know how it's generated. I don't know. I'm absolutely puzzled with it, but I'm inquisitive to find out another one what.
Yeah, well, so we'll get out this window and we'll pursue that. Okay, Steve, brilliant. I heard that. Did any of you whisper beside of me then?
No.
I do have to apologise for the sound quality because we are on the camcorder sound. It is very, very windy. Once again, I've just been totally not for six. You know, it also happened further down the path, and I said to Steve at that point, you know what, out of all the investigations I've done but in my lifetime and all the time I spent around the spirits, that was only the sixth time that's ever happened. Little did I expect, only 5 minutes later I would literally get knocked for six. The interesting thing about this, as we'll speak to Steve in a minute, I followed a path of something. I knew it wasn't spirit people because it was static, it wasn't moving. We followed it. In fact, you know what, I'm just going to go to Steve and let him explain it to you.
Well, that was very profound. We followed Don down a path. He said that he was following some type of energy. I don't know really what that meant. I followed it down, and all of a sudden Don just deviated to the right through a ditch into the middle of a forest. I mean, you know, we're in the middle of no man's land here, and every single tree, as you can probably see, is exactly the same. In fact, I was just following Don. I don't know where we were going, and all of a sudden I saw Don. It's as if he literally collapsed. You know, he was struggling for breath. I was a little bit concerned, and then my eyes focused on this tree behind me, which was covered in flowers as some type of memorial. It's got the words Mum and Dad on it. I don't know what it means. I don't know why it's there. It's very, very strange. And why we're in the middle of a forest, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night, and he manages to find this location, it's just absolutely profound. I know that we didn't visit this location prior to tonight, and I've no idea. I was wondering if it was a place where somebody had been prior and maybe passed away, so it's a kind of a commemoration to a location where somebody once had been, or somebody used to come.
Because it's not an obvious location for memorial in the middle of a forest.
It's in the middle of a forest. It's difficult to see. It's away from roads.
Houses.
And in fact hardly any people really. I was through the forest. You're kind of in the middle of the forest here. The thing was made certainly a great effort to put all these things around the tree, which it says Mum, Dad, and with those sort of say Mum and Dad on it. Is it two people used to come here, or somebody used to come here and maybe they passed away and this is a commemorative spot? It's a bit unusual. It's a bit out of the way, and it's extremely difficult to find.
No, Steve, the first recording I've just taken here, and I filmed it, was this. Not sure what it says.
Do you want to listen to this, Jack?
No, the next one's better, trust me.
Right. That's interesting.
It's more of a human sounding voice. It's very, very good, actually.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
It's not in the hush, is it? Or
no, it's more of a.
It's a very
it's
low.
Like a distant.
Vote.
It's like it's clear but distant.
Yeah, it is.
We've been watching the skies because we've seen 3 satellites. It's a clear night, because there's obviously been quite a number of UFO sightings around in this vicinity. But we've also been listening to the environment. We can hear a number of wood grousers in the background, and it's really interesting because when they actually make their kind of mating call, they sounds like pigs, you know. and it's interesting because there's been this pig man allegedly associated to the area as well. So I thought that was quite an interesting. That might be able to rationalise some events. There's some dogs been passing through during the night, can clearly be misidentified. We saw one dog earlier, it looked a bit like a wolf, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Oh, well, I've got to say, Steve, it was walking on all fours.
It was working on all four fours, yeah. But, we've looked into all sorts of different things tonight. But most of all, we've been looking out for these alleged apparitions of these black-eyed children. And
not that we'd expected to see one.
We didn't really expect to see anything. But
yeah, and Steve, I've got to say, when we was walking down the path from right down the bottom there, towards the second cemetery, we heard what sounded like a scream. Possibly.
Yeah. Well, we heard
sounded
we heard
like
something.
We heard something.
We heard something. It caught Jackie's attention first, but I also heard it at the same time, and we stopped and we both looked in the same direction to our right, into the forest, and we heard something a bit like a child's cry or a child's scream.
That's what it sounded like, Steve.
It did. I don't know, but then it was breezy, it's windy. Trees could be rubbing together and making unusual noise, or there could be a load of critters around. Or even owls, and of course the tawny owl is renowned for making certain noises, screeching.
Yeah, but from the public point of view, someone's walking down that path.
Oh yeah.
Looking, I mean, we've encountered a few people here tonight. Oh, is this the haunted place? And they're walking up and down with torches,
taking photographs. One person actually pulled me aside and said, "Could you tell me where it is?" And I said, "Yeah, it's just down there on the right." So, this is what happens.
No, but the thing is, Steve, what I'm saying is, if they're walking out and they heard that,
of course it would be attributed.
It would be undoubtedly a woman screaming.
Exactly. And what happens then is that a report is generated. Somebody in the media gets to hear about it. It ends up in the newspapers. People read it, and they come out here and they experience similar things. And of course, you can see how it sort of gets bigger and bigger and spirals. And this is exactly what happens in situations like this, when in fact there are probably 1,001 rational explanations. Now, I know many people are going to be saying, well, you know what are the things that he's actually capturing? Well, most of the time, for the individual who's not used to hearing these things, you'll hear, yes, there's some garbled words or something there, but you've got to remember, they should not be anything, just hush on the recording devices. There shouldn't be any garbled messages or anything whatsoever. What is interesting is that, Don has been demonstrating this for a long time and done his own tests. I mean, one particular test, he was in a graveyard and he captured this vocals, somebody saying the name Jodie, and then somebody singing Jodie. It's crazy. You shouldn't get, all we hear is hush on the recorders. And here's just one example. And not only that, Don also captures something seemingly passing in front of the camera, which he believes he may have caught some form of apparition. Who knows? You take a look.
Not sure what that one says. Not sure what that one says. That sounds like a human voice. It says Jodie, and then a gentleman starts singing, which is clearly not me. I'm going to leave that running, and I'm going to, just in case you prefer it this way, I'm just going to walk off for a minute or so, and I'll check it and I'll come back. Having finished my filming and returning home, it wasn't until reviewing the footage this is what I found. As can be clearly heard, I took at least 8 or 9 steps away from the camera. Anything would be appreciated. I'm now going to just a couple of minutes. Thank you. Here it is again in slow motion.
Going to other locations, such as an old farmhouse where alleged paranormal disturbances had also been reported, was another opportunity for me to introduce a couple of SEP investigators at that time to come along and conduct tests themselves and see the capabilities of Don and scrutinising how he actually records these strange anomalies on digital recorders. And so I brought along Chris and Emma to this particular farmhouse, and I also interviewed the owner about some of the strange experiences there. I've asked them to go around the building with their audible recording devices and just to see if we can get anything unusual recorded on them. And as we know from previous investigations we've done, we've captured some incredible things. And what's really interesting is the fact that when these guys have gone round, Chris and Emma, to capture these recordings, they've actually got nothing, absolutely nothing, just hush in the background, and that is what we expected. It'll be interesting tonight, later on, to see if we really do capture some unusual things.
I'm Chris from SEP, and I've been asked by Steve to help investigate this location. We've been round every single room within the location using voice recorders, otherwise known as dictaphones, to try and find any sounds or eliminate all types of different sounds. So far we have no sounds, which is a good sign. It's clean, there's nothing on there, there's no crackling, there's no popping sounds, there's no sounds whatsoever. So for me personally, I'm very impressed that we have no sounds. So what I am looking forward to is hoping if we do find some sounds later on during the investigation.
Will that carry on? What is recording? Will it maintain recording with that?
It'll likely. Well, so far, very interesting night. We've been around, we've used these voice recorders, these the dictaphones, and we've been in rooms we've done. Now earlier I said that we've been in different rooms and we've done a sweep with these voice recorders and completely flat, nothing whatsoever. So what we've done, we've gone around with Don Phillips earlier on, and simultaneously at the same time, Don has asked questions and spoke out, and in response he's had uncanny results with his voice recorder. Now mine was recording at the same time, stood mainly just a few feet away from him, listening also on the headphones, so I may be able to hear this as in live audio as it's coming through. And so far I've received nothing whatsoever, but on Don's voice recorder, uncanny voices was heard. Everybody's heard them, myself included, which has left me dumbfounded. So what we did, we swapped the voice recorder around. Obviously we're going to try my voice recorder. Don used my voice recorder, which you can see here, and asked again, and again voices was heard on there, which was quite unique. When I've tried it, nothing whatsoever. So we've been in the vicinity, one's working, one's not. So it's not a case of the voice recorder's faulty, because I know this worked because Don used it himself. When I try, there's nothing. So it's kind of left me dumbfounded, really. You know, there's words that we are hearing. We can make some words out that we do understand, human vocals, but it's left me dumbfounded. I really can't explain it so far.
Now a couple of years in working with Don Phillips, this is around about 2016 and 17 now, I wanted to get Don into different locations to see what the capabilities are, or limitations if he has any, in regarding capturing disturbances, capturing not only audible phenomena, but other things, even direct voice phenomena straight out the air. We had an opportunity to investigate the alleged very haunted building known as Mill Street Barracks, which is in St Helens in the UK. And we took a trip down there. Now, this is a location where Don demonstrated another profound ability of knowing information that wasn't currently known. And he located some type of underground passageway which went across the road and into an office across the way, which was a recording studio. And we managed to actually go over there and talk to those people as well. And the local church, which is just kind of right next door. The whole area is steeped in paranormal disturbances reported by many, many different people. And our trip, again, raised me some very unusual concerns because, you know, even the spontaneous appearance of blood, what looked like blood on his hand. Now, I had somebody look at that. And though that we couldn't afford to actually, at that time, because it's cost a lot of money to have the for analysis, to have the blood checked against Don's blood, but we can certainly tested it to the point of saying, yes, it's human blood. But it spontaneously kind of appeared on his hand. And at this time, I just want to make it known that I was aware that on a few occasions, blood would seem to be coming from Don's ear. And no explanation was ever found as to why is a drop of blood coming down from Don's ear. I've heard of reports of spontaneous manifestations of blood coming from noses or even the eyes on a number of people demonstrating psychic abilities. But I always thought, it's a bit hokey. But seeing this firsthand, that, you know, just blood appearing and from nowhere was quite unusual. And Mill Street Barracks was also a place where we managed to be able to conduct further tests, allowing us to put recording devices in a container under a foot or two of water and still capture audible phenomena on it, which was very unusual. So we are, at that time, expanding the experiments into other areas to find out how much we can learn about the capabilities, not just when Don is holding equipment, but in the vicinity. Seems to as a catalyst, it seems to evoke the phenomena to act more so than normal. And I have to say, you know, it's never been a dull moment going to these locations we've done. So let's take a look at Mill Street Barracks, where I brought in another professional to look at the recording techniques that Don was doing and the phenomena he captured. And that was Dr. Robert Young, who I brought in. And he was quite shocked as well. So this is Rob Young, who's joined us at Mill Street Barracks. And Rob, what do you think? This is the first time, obviously, you've been out to Mill Street Barracks. I don't think you've been here to this location before.
No, I haven't, never been before.
First time out, you've witnessed Don. You've seen what he's doing with the recording devices. What's your take on it?
Well, after observing Don, it's the first time I've ever seen a person get instant responses, audio-wise. I've been looking what he's doing with his hands. I've been doing what he's been doing recordings. I know the outside conditions are not very good. He said he works off atmospherics and different conditions. He's got to work in the right conditions. And to be quite honest with you, I'm baffled in some respects because I've never seen anyone get so many consistent recordings after asking a question.
Well, there's that consistency there, isn't there? I mean, it's not the matter that he's picking things up, but it's the consistency of him picking things up on his recording devices, and it doesn't seem to work with anybody else, so that's what's really intriguing, isn't it?
No, it is, yeah, and to be honest, I've been to locations before, I've done my own recordings, and I've come away with absolutely nothing after analysing hours and hours of audio footage, but after meeting Don the first time and seeing what he's been doing with recorders, I'm quite baffled in some respects.
It is, yeah, and of course it only sets to get better, you know, so we'll carry on with the investigation and see what we obtain from the location.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. And obviously I believe you've met Don before.
Yeah, we were down in the cellar here at Mill Street, and Don pointed to me and he said, do you know who this person is? And when he pressed the recordings, when he played them back, you could actually hear it saying, yes, it's Jamie.
So what you're telling me is that something said your name on the recording device?
As clear as anything, yeah.
That's really, really interesting.
Well, that's when I sat back and thought, that's real.
And of course you've been obviously following Don's work since.
Of course, and he'd done it again, and he asked them, would he happy with me being here? And he actually said, yes, we like Jamie.
Yeah. Don's going to be visiting us tonight, and you've experienced some of his work before. It'll certainly be interesting to find out what we get.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with Don several times now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he picks up.
I believe it'll be fascinating. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
We were all preparing and looking forward to the night's investigation at Mill Street Barracks. During this time, I was walking across the hall. I sensed something which seemed a little out of the ordinary. At first, I thought it was a spot, an area. This had me intrigued. I spent the next few minutes just wondering what this was. At one time it would appear it was there, another time it would appear it wasn't. At this time I was only walking horizontally across whatever was there, which meant it appeared to be a very small area. It's when I turned and walked horizontally in line with it. I was convinced this was a ley line, either a ley line or more likely a tunnel running underneath Mill Street Barracks. If this was a tunnel, then obviously it may extend further beyond the barracks underneath the road to the opposite property. And even if that was the case yet to be established, why would I be feeling energy which had obviously drew me to this area in the first place?
Don's been over there and he's walking across the hall back. I've seen him for the last 10 minutes pacing backwards and forwards, and it seems to be always stopping at the same location. Something that he claims is running parallel across the floor there.
It's literally straight down. See the tunnel from there.
Are you aware of anything like that at this location?
Well, it's hearsay.
What we're saying then is, because I would say, of course that's me, I'm very sceptical about these sort of things, but what we're basically saying here is then that could be actually a tunnel crossing the path where Don's actually is and been pacing up and down.
Yeah, because it's probably about the same place. I mean, I couldn't say exactly.
Well, we do know that the church is in the back.
Yeah.
And it could have been a tunnel, obviously. There has been tunnels coming from churches for many years. And it'd be interesting to actually know how far that tunnel goes. Maybe if it goes across the way. I know there's some studios across the way, so we might be able to check that.
That's a jump studio, yeah. It could be.
It'd be worth looking into. If we go to the studios, might be able to actually find out if there's somebody there, what they might know, if they know of anything in regard to any tunnel. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I don't believe anything's documented. I've not come across anything that's documented about it.
I've not seen anything documented, but I mean, Don might be in, so we could give him.
Yeah.
Give him
All right, we'll do that. We'll go over and have a look.
Okay. Yeah.
Could the room above have any connection with what happened next?
That's blood.
It is. Yeah. Where's that coming from?
Nowhere. I thought it was paint. I said to Jamie, I've got paint on me.
Paint on you?
Isn't
It's too dark now. It looks like paint.
Just on my hands.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been on all the wood. I can smell that.
That's blood.
We need to check that for my blood, don't we, Steve? We said that before. All right, let's go and do that. Let's go and do that.
It had been previously documented by Steve Mera that on occasion, when we're in the presence of strong energy, blood will show from my ears, from my nose. On this occasion, it suddenly appeared on my hand.
Just to make sure there's no cuts. Turn your hand over.
No cuts, Jackie.
There's no cuts at all.
We both experienced something tonight, which that strange liquid on his hand. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you know yourself, I was out there with Don, I walked with Don, and to actually see the blood on his hand at the time really did surprise me.
I mean, we're assuming it's blood. I mean, by all intents and purposes, it had that smell to it, the texture to it, the colour to it. It was dried like it was dried blood. By all intents and purposes, if it's not blood, then it was something replicated blood very much. And we're having I'll certainly find out about if that is actually blood. But how did it get there? I mean, did you ever see his hand with anything on?
No, because I mean, you know yourself, you were behind us, we were walking together, and he pointed up to the window because he was talking about something that happened up there or something.
So Don was drawn to a particular location. I remember him talking to you and pointing up at a certain window in this area. Had anything actually ever taken place at that particular point?
The alleged happening, what's supposed to have happened is someone was supposed to have been beaten to death up there.
Beaten to death?
Yeah, by a couple of people, but it's hearsay, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's strange that he was outside and he was pointing up.
At that very spot?
At that moment he was pointing towards that spot. He wasn't pointing to the spot, but he was pointing towards it in that direction. And his hand, what he put up, didn't have the blood on it, and it was the same hand, because it was... it was his left-hand side, wasn't it? So he had blood on it, and that was the hand he was putting up with.
And then obviously as he was walking back, he suddenly noticed his hand was sticky. He looked down and to our surprise, he had all this red liquid on his hand.
We checked the walls.
We've looked at the walls, there's nothing out there. He had no injuries to himself. A single drop of it ended up on his trousers from his hand. And you saw as we've cleaned it off, there was no injuries there. We don't know where he's got it from, how it appeared on his hand. Has anything like that ever happened before? With anybody?
Well, no, I've never seen that happen here before.
Right.
I mean, we've had people, you know, getting upset or
yeah, but nothing like that.
We've never had. I've never seen anyone.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
So hopefully, at some stage, we'll find out exactly if this is blood or not.
Well, you took a sample. So
I took a sample. We'll find out.
See what happens. Yeah.
Steve, if you want to just.
It's full of weights.
It's pretty full of weight. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put the recorder in there.
Which is on record, is it?
Not yet, but it will be. I'm going to press record now.
Okay. Yep.
Put that on very quickly. Obviously. Okay, that's looking good. And take this jug now.
It took us approximately 10 seconds to leave the room. When the experiment was set, myself, Steve and Jackie left and secured the room. We left for a few minutes before returning.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to seal off this door. Lights off.
Lights off. Right, Steve.
Okay, we're just heading back into the kitchen. Just going to move the brace off from the lock, go in, check to see what we recorded. Still weighted down.
There's no water in there.
Still recording. Stop. That's us placing it in the water.
If there were voices on the recorder, we had to be sure it was neither myself or any of the team. Before reviewing these recordings, there's a couple of points I'd like to make. The first recording comes approximately 1.5 minutes after the recording started. That gave myself and the rest of the team ample time to leave the area and secure the room. The second point I'd like to make is what's actually being said. Don is going outside. That's not something that any of us would have any reason to say. And the last recording, thank you, again, is not anything that we would be likely to say. That dialogue did not come from any of the team.
You say it's not undulating frequency noise.
But what about my suspected tunnel? Jamie had worked at Mill Street Barracks for many, many years and was a committee member. If there was a tunnel in the location that I said, Jamie had already confirmed. As far as he was aware, it had never been documented, and this in itself would be a true new discovery. The following morning, it was time to dig a little deeper.
So what sort of area are we looking at?
We're looking at that area in front of those two speakers there.
Well, actually, you can actually see an outline of something here on the floor.
Yeah.
And of course, is this the original floor, do you think, from here?
Not sure. There's another floor underneath it when you see where there's blocks missing. There's another floor underneath, but certainly this wouldn't have been laid until after the use of whatever.
I mean, you can actually certainly see an outline
Yeah.
of some type of depression there, as if, and you believe this is where maybe the entrance was to the tunnel?
Certainly, it must go down somewhere. I mean, if you stand on the area, you can hear.
You certainly can, yeah. Which direction do you think it runs off? Do you think it runs off in this direction because it's taken us across to Mill Street?
I would have assumed so.
My claim of a tunnel had now been validated. We knew it extended to Gem Studios. We now suspected more than ever it was linked to the church behind Mill Street Barracks. Could we find anything to suggest this might be the case?
I'm here at St Mary's Low House in St Helens, a wonderful building, and I'm here to talk with Mr Hughes, who works here.
in regards to the strange things that we've found in regards to tunnels, which we've located at Mill Street Barracks, and possibly also located at Jam Studio right opposite. Mr. Hughes, what can you tell me about this wonderful building? Are you aware of any tunnels that may be in the vicinity or underneath the property?
Well, there's always been talks of a tunnel going from the church to the Notre Dame convent that was over the road. But there's no sign of anything, feasible currently.
Right.
But since you've mentioned the tunnels there, I'm wondering if people have got mixed up, and the talks of the tunnels in the past have actually been tunnels from here to the army barracks at the back.
Possible. I mean, you've been down to the Mill Street Barracks, and you've been downstairs and had a look, and you can clearly see where obviously there's some remnants of a tunnel there. We're not too sure where it's going, but it would seem that we've located some type of passageway going across Mill Street Barracks and goes through to the Jam Studio, where we found a possible entrance area under the floor. First thing that came to our mind is that it was running straight to the church. Are you aware of anything prior to this building being built here?
Only the old church.
So there was an old church here?
There was a church before this. So it's quite possible that tunnel, which I've looked at, the entrance to it, heading in that direction, could have gone to the old church.
Of the old church, was there anything built underneath that one?
There was a crypt, which is well documented in books of the history of the church.
Right.
The founder of the church, which is named after, when we say Low House, it's because of the woman who founded it. She was buried under there, but it doesn't mention anything about tunnels. It just mentions that before they demolished it completely, they dug down and found the calcified bones of the founder of the church.
Right.
And left it there. People were invited to put a bottle with the name and address of their family, and they were all buried with it, and it was just...
So that...
There is graves marked outside.
Oh, so they still remain there?
Yeah, it's there, yeah.
You also mentioned a little bit earlier, which intrigued me, about some of the strange things that you may have experienced here in the church. Can you tell me a few of those things?
Yeah, we've had people working part way up the tower, which has, say, 4 levels. And then when I've gone up to where they're working, and they've asked me what was I doing above them at the next level, and I said I haven't been up to the next level. No, we could hear you brushing up and walking about.
And nobody was up there?
There's nobody up there.
Interesting.
And then the same thing is, I've heard voices and thought that somebody that was working there was talking to somebody, and the same person said, no, I thought you were talking to somebody in the next room.
Interesting. Okay, Mr. That's wonderful. Just wanted to ask one last question, and I think it's intrigued me. Is what do you think? Do you believe that there are sometimes just spirits around us?
Yes, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time, Mrs. Hughes. It's been a real pleasure. Mill Street Barracks in Merseyside. It's certainly been an eventful place to come and visit. Surprisingly, we've had a multitude of different things take place, not the normal things we'd normally find. We've had the strange blood-type liquid that appeared on Don's hand. It just seemed to come out of the blue with no idea what that is, and we're certainly having that analysed at the moment. And also, let's not forget the fact that Don picked up on something really strange in the hall at Mill Street Barracks, as if there was a tunnel. And it was great to actually talk to other people in the area, which actually managed to confirm that there was, in fact, a tunnel. As to where it goes and what it's doing and what it was for is still a bit of a mystery, but we maybe have actually linked to the church, which we did visit and met with Mr. Hughes, who told us of also some strange paranormal things that are going on there. We also met with Don in his club across the road, which was actually part of Mill Street Barracks, and he too is also having paranormal things take place there. It was also really interesting to find a possible exit or entrance to this given tunnel. Whatever all that means remains a mystery at this given time. But it's been a fantastic place. We've also had, Don picking up on the person who hung himself, and actually at that exact location as well, and how Don actually found that out is, I do not know. All very strange. And it's just been so much, and we really don't know how to explain some of the strange recordings that we've had around the building. We've had some very clear responses. And also a really interesting test, it did seem to prevail some interesting information, was the water test that we did. Sealing up a recorder and placing it underwater in the kitchen and leaving it for 10 minutes in a locked off area. And we did seem to get what can only be described as some type of vocal response on that. As to how that we managed to get that, it remains a mystery, and we'll certainly have to look into that a little bit deeper. But for now, it's mind-boggling.
Of course, we managed to get around to a number of places because this was an opportunity over that first, the first 4 years of doing studies and work around with Don and taking him on locations where he could demonstrate his ability and it could be seen by others in that environment, and certainly those that may have had knowledge about things which wasn't shared with myself or Don.
Now, what we did was Don played the recordings. He did some of these recordings, which is EVP or AVP, actual voice phenomena, he calls it. And some of them were extremely impressive, including one particular one in which you hear a number of men singing, like a male voice choir, and there's another one in which you hear several young boys, sounds like young boys anyway, talking loudly and very clearly indeed. That's the most incredible thing. Extremely impressive, and I was actually there when that was recorded, and I can assure you there were no noises, no sounds coming in at all at that time. We were all sitting there quietly while Don was pressing the record button.
I mean, no one's there.
Well, at least we know he's there, which is great.
It scares me a little bit, it freaks me out.
Gentleman known as Ian Gunner, and he asked us to go down and look at a location known as Staffordshire FM radio station building, where the upstairs apparently paranormal disturbances take place. And there was also some historical information which we got to learn eventually about apparent suicide that took place there. And that was also very interesting. So let's take a look at what Ian Gunner had to say whilst we visited Staffordshire FM radio.
Good evening, my name's Gunnar. I'm presenter of the Asylum on Stafford FM 107.3. Tonight we've invited Don and Steve, the Phenomena Project, down here to Stafford FM as we've been receiving reports and I guess phone calls for the last 2.5 years about ghostly goings on. There are many people who believe there's something taking place in this building. There are many people who believe it's just figment of your imagination. Tonight we bring two of the country's leading paranormal investigators to find out exactly what's taking place inside this building. And I'm not going to lie, from early reports it looks good already.
In Parliament later.
So,
Donald Trump's again attacking the US media.
It's absolutely real, and it's time that we started looking into the phenomenon a little bit differently and maybe changing the aspects of how we investigate it slightly.
Let's get to this now. We're going to send these gentlemen upstairs. They're going to start, of course, doing some recordings, finding out what it is that takes place. We're going to catch up with them in a few minutes, of course.
Yeah. We'll get upstairs, get them familiarised, and then we'll pop up and see what's going on.
What do you reckon, dude? Do you reckon we're going to get something tonight? Do you reckon we're going to find answers? I'm pretty confident.
Well, from what I've seen of Don's work so far, he's like a big antenna. if anything is up there, he will find it. The legend that is Don.
The legend that is Don.
The legend that is Don.
Anyway, listen, we've got to crack on now. We've got to get into the zone, see what we can find, and yeah, we will bring an update very, very shortly. So join us soon, guys.
So this evening, here at Stafford FM, 1 to 3 Mount Street, we invited Don Phillips and Steve Mera down from the PhenomenaProject.tv to help us with a bit of a mystery. Some of the information we've heard tonight is nothing short of outstanding, to be honest. We were recounted a story quite a few years ago when we first started here that apparently within this building a lady had committed suicide. From what I was led to believe, she'd actually thrown herself from one of the top windows up on the upper floor. What we were led to believe, and I need to corroborate this and actually double check because the information that Don has provided tonight alongside Steve is nothing short of phenomenal. Me and Daz actually had this conversation prior to going on air, didn't we, about this exact story. So to see Don walk to exact locations, to exact places, and then to pick up information that actually, in our opinion, directly relates to this story is nothing short of phenomenal. So I need to go back and check that story, but So the story goes, it used to be a social services building. She'd lost her children, they'd been taken away from her, I believe, and she then committed suicide from the top floor. So to see Don not only come with the name, I need to correct and check that name actually from the lady who works here, but we believe the name Sarah to be correct. We believed, or my opinion at the time, was around the late 1960s for Don to pick up something on the line we just heard upstairs of something like 1970 or 1975, again fits in. So all of the evidence, all the things that we've heard tonight is pretty much bang on radar with the story that we've previously been told here at Stafford FM, as opposed to what's happened. So amazing work from you guys yet again. I'm literally gobsmacked and speechless.
So the roller coaster ride carries on for at least another 6 years. There are going to be other videos coming along that demonstrate some of those crazy things. We've been involved in a number of different investigations all over the place. However, one particular evening, I was so curious when Don rang me. Now, Don at that time lived in Leicester. He was about 100 odd miles away from me. And myself and my partner, Jackie, I was talking to Don on the phone, and I was so curious. I wondered, can Becky, this so-called spirit, tell Don via recording what I'm holding in my hand? It's a kind of a remote viewing type test sort of thing. It's a strange setup. And I told Don, I was in my bedroom and I was sat on the end of the bed, and I told Don, I've got something in my hand, Don. You know, will this work? And it was totally off the cuff, and Don said, well, you know, I'll try. And he did a recording. Now, I can't, be honest, I can't hear the recording very well because this was recorded by Don, and it's from his mobile phone, so it doesn't seem to carry through the mobile phone very well to my mobile phone. However, he did record, and he came back to me and said, in regards to what I was actually holding in my hand, Steve, is it a pendulum? Becky says it's a pendulum. And I couldn't believe it at the time, and neither could Jackie, who was sat next to me. She was actually a bit scared about it. I don't know, she's first time she'd experienced all of this. I was holding a pocket watch in my hand, swinging it back and forward, so thus a pendulum. Fascinating. And here's the recording from that.
Can Becky, remote view did you say?
Well, hang on, have you got DVD? No, go on. Go on, say again.
Well, you said, can Becky remote view?
Yeah.
I said, you said you was on your bed, and I said, well, it's something you can put in your hand.
Yeah.
And then I said, you said you had.
I have. I've got it in my hand.
All right. So I said to Becky, can you tell me what Steve's got in his hand?
So he's asked Becky what I've got in my hand.
And the recording is, it won't sound clear to you on the phone because it's a bit staticky, but.
Is this got speakers on this phone? Just hang on. Right.
Right, so hang on. So from the static.
Go and ask Becky what I've got in the hand. But Becky's coming here and looking and saying, tell him. Right.
So I've asked Becky. And it sounds it sounds like pendulum. Hang on. Hang on.
John, you are shitting there.
No?
What? No, I'm not shitting you. I wouldn't do that, Jax. You got a pendulum?
What I've got? Tell him what I've got.
Right, what he's got is he's got a pocket watch on a chain, and he's swinging it.
It's a pendulum then.
Exactly. He's shitting there.
No.
John, you're frightening there.
No, let me tell you how this has come about, Jackie. And this is why I'm recording this, just in case, because we was talking. Steve says, as Becky, and I'm recording this, Steve, and I'm going to put this out. Has Becky ever remote viewed? And I says, what do you mean? He says, well, from other places. I says, yeah.
So a big thank you to everybody for following this. There will be another video, part 3, Paranormal Catalyst, on its way, where we get into some very unusual places, like a haunted public house, Tutbury Castle, and a number of other places. So please, if you do like it, please like, share and subscribe, and if you have any questions, please pop them down below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you for watching.